This is Johnny Cycles with CyclesGaming.com, bringing you another edition of Keeping Modern Janky. Here we have two ways of filtering our draws and filling our graveyard. Something to... Yeah, I mean, we'll keep it. I don't know. It's not... Without the frog, the frog is so powerful. So I call this deck Psychedelic Frogvine. It's a Vengevine shell using Psychic Frog to really power it up, giving us a way to discard what's in our hand for value. Another land. And then Souls of the Lost and White of the Reliquary are ways we can... I wonder if we would just want to... Let's go ahead and get the Water Grave. Probably could have done all that on our opponent's end step, so they wouldn't know that we had plans. I assume they expected a fatal push there. Tamio. Getting in, getting a clue. Our way is to take advantage of all the things we're putting in our graveyard, because it will be mostly creatures. Bloodcast, Gravecrawler, Stitcher Supplier. So I kind of think we could put this into the graveyard and this into the graveyard. Keep this on top of our library. And yeah. Thank you for showing me my graveyard so often. It's really nice. And again, we should have... I'm still learning this deck, that's for sure. So we should have always do the Stitcher Supplier first. Because you never know. We might get more Bloodcasts in the graveyard. But since it's a fetch land, we're not going to get punished for that in any way. But we see another 3 lands. Okay, well... Play the Gravecrawler. Pass the turn. So we can always sack the Gravecrawler to the Souls of the Lost if we ever need it back in the graveyard to trigger a prized amalgam returning. Alright, so I got one game in. Our opponent scooped the match after losing game 1. And it's a free zone though, just practicing. They're playing the Psychic Frog. Yes. Much love for the Psychic Frog. It's so powerful. So good. We would like to see a Psychic Frog, please, off the top. We do have Fatal Pushes, so that's good. Fatal Push is a clean answer for Mr. Psychic Frog. What do we want to do? Currently have no creatures in our graveyard. So I think we will... Could just swing in and see what happens, right? If they do any sort of shenanigans. We're not in any hurry to cast the Souls. Oh, it's a 5/6, never mind. We are in a hurry to cast the Souls of the Lost. See what happens. It's almost a free block. Because we'll get it back with the land, and they're going to have to pitch a card to grow it out of range. Deep analysis. Do we even care? Probably not. I mean, it is 2 free points of damage that we could have gotten through if we hadn't done that. But this gets him down a card too, which makes us happy. So now we will play a land, just in case. Get the blood gas back. Yes, we would like to use its ability. So what we could do is Souls of the Lost, sacrificing the Bloodghast. That's a neat trick. So much to this deck. How sweet is that with the fetch land? So now we'll go get maybe a green black or a blue black. Probably blue black. And yes, we would like the Bloodghast to come back. See if they have a way to stop this fatal push. Looks like they might. Spell Pierce. So that was one reason why we didn't want to do all that, right? Because then we would have had the 2 mana to pay for Spell Pierce. Now, they're down to 1 card though. We have a lot of pressure on the battlefield right now. So even with this Psychic Frog drawing them an extra card, they're not going to be able to grow it into killing us range anytime soon. And they're going to have to be careful with blocking, that we don't just kill them dead with all of our attacks. We'll see what their follow-up play is with their last card in hand. They're going to flashback Deep Analysis, draw some cards. It's good for them. So yeah, that's a big... all that's good for them, right? Murktide. So now they're in their last few cards. Man, what a great set of cards they had. And we had a fun turn, but now they really turned the corner with that play, with having a counter spell to keep their frog alive, flip their Tameo into a Murktide. I mean, you couldn't have asked for a better series there, I would say. This is still just a 5/5 though. And we can grow it ourselves, either with Otherworldly Gaze or just pitching to the Psychic Frog. So and they're down to, they have 2 cards. That's a lot. Kind of just thinking how we want to go about this. So we could swing in with everybody and then go ahead and just get things back next turn. What's in our graveyard? We could Otherworldly Gaze and see what we hit. So all these are just doing 1 damage thanks to the Tameo. So they're going to block. And then this try to kill us on the backswing. So this is a 5/5. Put us to 10. We have the flyer to block though. So okay, we're going to go ahead and go to combat. How do I undo that? Reset attacking creatures, because it's a 0/1. So we'll do attack, attack, attack. See, yep. All those triggers on the stack. It's kind of annoying. Is there a world in which we can kill them? This is now a 8-10. Still not going to be enough, but it's going to be fun. Alright, well, that's what we got. Hit him to 2. They have no cards in the graveyard in which to give their frog flying. We have a flyer if we really want to chump block the Murktide, and they're at 2. So, what do they find? They have 3 cards. It's kind of a lot. I'm digging for answers. We have quite a bit of pressure in our graveyard now with 2 prized amalgams and a Gravecrawler and a Bloodghast. So we are cooking with gas if they don't find some way to interact with what we're doing. The Souls of Lost, man, is really showing its stuff right now. 13-14 currently. After combat, things died, so it grew. Do they find the Fatal Push? Do they find 2 Fatal Pushes? They find another Psychic Frog. Well, that is a chump blocker. Our Psychic Frog is currently a 3-4. So they can kind of sit back. They can swing in here if they really want, but yeah, they're not going to. Alright, what do we find? What would be our best draw? The land's not bad. So what we can do is Otherworldly Gaze, see what we find. Play the... If we play the Gravecrawler from the graveyard, we lose some power and toughness on our Souls of the Lost. They have 2 cards. How can we close out this game? I think we just have to give this flying, basically, is how we close out this game. It's a 3-4. This does not have flying. It forces a couple blocks. It does take off some of our synergies, but it does clear the way. I think they're going to end up having to block here anyway. So if we force them, then they're down to just a frog. And then we lose a little bit of toughness. So I think we're going to go swamp. So gains flying. We're going to lose our frog, I think, but they're going to be down to just 1 frog, and we're going to be down to Souls of the Lost plus a whole lot of other creatures on the battlefield. They'll have a Murktide, and then they'll have a frog. So I guess they won't be that far down, but, yep. This is now a 2-4. This is a 5-5, so we can't, unfortunately, do anything there. 7. And we're down a flyer. That might have been a mistake on our part, because now we don't have a chump blocker anymore. Uh-oh, that's a problem. So now they're going to get 3 cards, hit us for 5, 10, and we're not going to live if we fetch. So I think we're not going to fetch. We'll save the land. And again, we misplayed. We should have otherworldly gazed before doing any of that. Still learning the deck. Alright, so we're in danger of dying to the swing back now. Our opponent will be up to 10, be able to do 10 points of damage. And we're at 11. So will they find a way to finish this game? If they can draw another card, they'll have enough to kill us. And they're gonna... Did they find another Murktide? Ah, that's some cool synergies I didn't see coming. And we're dead. Alright. Alright, so now we're dead, which is fine. And we'll go to game number 2, which I assume will be rougher for us after the sideboard. But yeah, alright, so making that attack, all-out attack to force blocks was not a great plan. Now, if we had held back a blocker, we would not have died. Could have just gone, swung in with the Souls of the Lost, forced a block out of them, and been in the same position but with a flyer. And then the following turn, been able to overall swing. So we got a little bit greedy with our attacks. Alright, so how do we want to go about doing this? Endurance seems alright. Assassin's Trophy as a hard answer, adding a little bit more. Gotta assume though we're going to bring in some graveyard hate. The Assassin's Trophy does answer some graveyard hate. What are we going to take out? The whites. Endurance maybe bring in to help against their graveyard strategy, or do we bring in Terra Sunder? We gotta cut 3 cards and get more coffee. Alright, so 3 cards. We can... Bloodghast, we saw some of the cool synergies there. Stitcher Supplier seemed pretty good though. I mean, all of this is... We need all of it, obviously. But do we trim here and there? Maybe just bring in the 3. That's 6 removal spells for their graveyard. Shenanigan hates. Anyway, this is why we practice, right? Becoming familiar with the overwhelming explosiveness of the deck from a first-hand perspective. We could have held back the blocker and had a huge board of attackers to finish off the game. Alright, well, we don't have any way to interact with what, if they have graveyard hate. So do we mulligan what it looks to be like a perfectly acceptable hand otherwise? Yeah, I mean, I think we're going to mulligan once to see if we can find an answer. Alright, we'll keep. I mean, we will put... Water Grave to the... Can't, that's not... let's put... Plated... alright, I'm really I'm really struggling over here with the land choices. So we're gonna save our Gravecrawler to pitch to the Psychic Frog for some extra value, assuming it resolves. Setting up for the spell snare, I believe. Well, we have two of them at least. So they didn't have any. Okay, I will put that into the graveyard. They don't have any graveyard hate like Leyline or anything. So that's another one. That's fine. That's the beauty of the frog, right? The beauty of the frog. If it resolves. If it doesn't, we'll be sad. And we do have two of them at least. They didn't keep any graveyard aid. They must have kept the spell snare hand, which is looks like what's about to happen. Yep. Sigh. Our hand's gonna get a lot worse if we don't resolve one of these frogs. Now what we can hope for is that we resolve the frog, draw land. Land would be good. Vengevine. That's also very, very good for us. Do we get this one in? If they have another spell snare, I'll be very sad. Subtlety. Oh no. Yep. Alright. So they had the subtlety. We'll put it on top. They'll probably have the counter spell after this. See how important the frog is? I mean, our whole hand is suddenly super explosive if we can resolve the frog. Pitch the Gravecrawler. Pitch this at their end step. Cast the Gravecrawler. Recast the Gravecrawler. Get both the Vengevine and two prized amalgams back. I mean, it's just hot fire. That would be 6, 10, 14 plus our frog being, I mean, that's like 18 points of damage. All from the rug that holds this deck together and Psychic Frog. Now I'm imagining there's no way this Psychic Frog is going to get anything but countered right now. So what do we do instead? Do we want to run out the Psychic Frog? Do we want to just start casting Gravecrawlers from and just hope we find something else? They know it's coming. They know they must have the answer. Could just start putting pressure on that way, perhaps. They're gonna get a big Murktide, I think. They're hoping to what? They're looking to what? Counterspell Murktide. That's what they're hoping to do. So we will go ahead and play one Gravecrawler. And pass the turn. It's sad. I mean, they're in such a good spot now. They've answered our two frogs in a way that sets them up to cast a big Murktide of their own. Bowmasters gets rid of our Gravecrawler. Sure. Opponent's got it all. Still like to draw a land here so that we could another Gravecrawler. Alright. Do we run out the Psychic Frog now into a counterspell? Man, another land would have at least allow us to play one Gravecrawler and see what happens. Um, this at least might bait out a counterspell since it does put some pressure on our opponent the old-fashioned way. And they know we have the um, frog, so at any point we can cast that if they tap down. Now they may just have something like a Murktide here, and then we're in sad shape. What do we draw? Land's good. See how they decide to go about blocking. So we can recast the Gravecrawler. At this point, I mean, I'm going to go for... I'm still fully expecting the counterspell, but I'm going to go ahead and go for the Psychic Frog for the max value play. It resolves. Alright. That's pretty exciting. When do we want to pull the trigger on the Gravecrawler, though? Now we're worried about a damnation. That's what we're worried about now. Alright, what do we want to do? So we could start pitching to the... There's no point in doing it now unless we want to get everything back at our end step. How much are we worried about damnation? They're playing a very heavy creature strategy. We've been playing around so much. Maybe we just replay the Gravecrawler from our thing. Alright, so now I figured out what we want to do. Alright, so this way damnation doesn't totally wreck us. Because we'll have the Gravecrawler to rebuild with next turn and get the prized amalgams back. Yeah, fatal push on the... What do we want to do? Do we want to get rid of the Vengevine too, or do we want to maybe look into a land to hardcast it? Alright, we're going to hold on to the Vengevine. We're one land away from just casting it. There's a chance that they do stuff to get rid of our graveyard at any point, so we're going to just play it safe, I think. Alright, back with Tameo flip. Still wouldn't work for them. So right now we'd like to hit an untapped land. Would be one of our better draws. Hey, it's an untapped land. Frog would have been fine too, of course. Alright, so we'll go get... We just keep hurting ourselves. That's one thing about this deck. It doesn't take long before you're dead from your own land. See if they have their last card's a Fatal Push. Not the last card, but sorry, they have. So we could just kill the Stamio and then go for our opponent. So this is going to be 3, 5, 7, 8, 9. I mean, we've been ignoring Tamio this entire time. Why stop that now? Yeah, I mean, it makes our attacks less powerful, obviously, but hopefully, I mean, it looks like they might have the Fatal Push as their last card. Or not, I keep saying the last card, but for their last mana that they left open was a Fatal Push. Sure, yeah. That's okay. We have any number of ways of getting that back. They're going to go to 7 with an empty board. We have a way to rebuild from a Damnation. We don't have a way to rebuild very well from a Graveyard hate card, but if they don't Damnation and have Graveyard hate, then we should be okay. Psychic Frog, pretty powerful. Pretty good card. So we would like to have a creature now. Any creature would do. Vengevine. That was the one I was thinking we would not want, but hey, we can cast it. Do they have a counterspell? Looks like they do. Opponents had some really lucky draws on their part too, with just answer after answer. Well, we've had our own fair share of luck, don't get me wrong. But man, opponent just won't run out of answers. And we misplayed last game. We should have gotten there last game. But that's okay. Match isn't over yet. Alright, well, let's see what they draw. Return target instant or sorcery card from your graveyard to your hand. If it's a green card, add 1 mana of any color. Alright. What would they want? They're tapping mana. What did they find? Card draw. Just a big old Murktide. Man, I mean, talk about running hot. No cards in hand. All the answers to stop from dying for all the pressure we managed to accumulate into our top deck to Murktide. So what can we top deck? Any creature would do. Any creature. That's what we're hoping for. Anything but, if it's not a Vengevine, right? A Vengevine's fine. I think they'll still be dead. However, what we really, really want is like a 2-drop, 3-drop, 1-drop. Any creature that we can cast with Gravecrawler to get back both Vengevines so that we can punish our opponent maximally. How about one good top deck deserves another? Magic odds. Otherworldly Gaze. The 2 Vengevines. Well, we can go ahead and attack. And I think they die. They didn't. Yes, they did. So they can block, and then we die, is what it looks like. Man, another right down to the wire game, because Murktide's going to kill us on the backswing. So we really needed to find. They top decked the Murktide. We top decked an Otherworldly Gaze. And that just isn't good enough. What do we have that we can bring back from the graveyard? Well, we're going to Otherworldly Gaze. Yeah, none of that's going to get there. The Fatal Push would be good, but I don't think we're going to... We don't have any way of drawing. It's going to be just enough. This Tameo, it's going to be just enough. They're going to go to 1. And we're going to go to dead after this. And they just scoop it up. Oh, they're dead. Never mind. Wow. What happened? They didn't block? So confused. They're just going to let us win the time. Did they not plus up Tameo? They did. So confused. So if they could have blocked, and then taken 1, 2, and then killed us on the swing back. So, alright, whatever. We're going to lose the time, but we'll try. I think I want to bring in the endurances. Now, we may get punished because they may have some ley lines, but I feel like they drew so many cards we would have seen it. Alright, let's try to play faster. 1, 2, 3 lands. Otherworldly Gaze. We'll keep it. I mean, we have our combo of Stitcher Supplier into Souls of the Lost. Look at those basic lands. We don't have our frog, though. Well, maybe our opponent's being nice. We should have won game 1. Oh, the Psychic Frog. We should have won game 1 by not attacking. Maybe they realized that they're giving us game 2 so that because we should have won game 1. I don't know. Either way, maybe I missed something. I'll go back through and look. It looked like they had plussed up their Tameo though, so. There's a Psychic Frog. I would say sorry for the slow play to my opponent, but they didn't reply to my other comments, so they may have their chat turned off. And I meant to Otherworldly Gaze in response. I'm F6 trying to conserve time. Murktide. Alright. Well, we do have the Assassin's Trophy, and we drew this. Oh man, we drew the Psychic Frog. Alright, so we're going to. Assassin's Trophy that. Let them get a land. Frog's good. Frog is really good. Chip in a little bit of damage. Well, they're not even going to go for the Stitcher Supplier. Makes sense. Alright, can we play fast enough? Hardcast the Vengevine, we drew off the top. It's interesting how these games become not about what you think they're about when you are playing them. Obviously, they had a Psychic Frog and a Murktide, which is exactly what they want. And then we have a way to fill our graveyard and the Psychic Frog and the Souls of the Lost, but we are not so interested in pursuing that. Alright, what do we want to do? I think we're going to probably just run out the Psychic Frog and probably get it countered. See if they have another counter spell. Another spell snare. Spell snare is so good against our deck. Alright, they're down to one card. What is it gonna be? Fatal Push. They've had all the answers up until now. Alright, digging. Doesn't look like a Fatal Push. We'll see. What they're leaving on top or the bottom? Psychic Frog goes to the graveyard. Interesting. I guess it's not very good when you don't have cards in your hand. Looking for a Murktide, I imagine. Alright, what do we find? Endurance is good. Alright, so we are going to Otherworldly Gaze. Put into the graveyard. Put into the graveyard. Put on top. Stop on our opponent's upkeep. Endurance. Do they have a counterspell? They do. Do they have a Murktide? Hopefully not. Can we fade another draw? Drawing some cards, that's acceptable. Playing a land, also acceptable. I'm glad we kept that endurance on top. Can we beat the clock now and our opponent, who might have a Fatal Push in hand? Alright, we're presenting lethal. And we got rid of their graveyard. They're up to 3 cards, I believe. Can we close this game out? 3's a lot, especially if some of them are kill spells. It looks like if it's a Murktide, though, maybe they timely top deck the Murktide. This is where, when I need to play fast, I'm not so sure how to play. Because I'm not so familiar with the deck. But now this game has become about just combat with big green creatures versus any sort of graveyard shenanigans. Fatal Push is one of their cards. Okay. And go for the throat. So lots of removal. We're down to 25 seconds. So we're going to lose the time, but that's okay. It's been a fun game. And learning the deck. I feel like we never should have gotten to this point, though. So, yeah, so much. Can we get there? Have a counterspell as their last card. One of the last. I mean, so much interaction. It's insane. And we're going to lose the time. All right, well, it was a fun match. I mean, I don't understand. We should have won game 1. Our opponent should have won game 2. We shouldn't have gone to time. But, you know, that's what happens when you're playing a playing practice games sometimes, especially with a new deck where you just aren't as familiar with all the ins and outs. Definitely need to speed up my play though. If you stuck with me this long, thank you. I appreciate it. For CyclesGaming.com, this is Johnny Cycles. I'll catch y'all on the next one. This has been another edition of Keeping Modern Janky with Johnny Cycles. Thanks for watching. Be sure to check out my website, cyclesgaming.com, for original Magic the Gathering content. You can read about my Commander decks or my janky modern brews. My latest article is about the zombie pre-con and its effect on Commander. I give you a couple different deck lists. If you're interested in a science fiction / fantasy novel, be sure to check out my book, The Podcon. I'm publishing it serially, a couple chapters every month. Again, thanks for watching. Check me out on YouTube, Johnny Cycles. Click that subscribe button. I'd really appreciate it, and I'll catch you on the next one.